This is Pandora's Pod, a brand new podcast, our very first episode that we've ever recorded. I'm Mary Catherine.
I'm Callum.
And this is not a professional podcast. This is just us sitting down talking about some of our favorite content. As part of the name, Pandora's Pod, we're unleashing all of our thoughts onto the world. Whether or not people like them or whether or not people want them, that doesn't matter because they're coming at you. This is episode 1 and we decided to do it because of sort of the Hunger Games renaissance that's going on right now. But y'all are just on that bandwagon because of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I was an OG Hunger Games fan.
Hey, don't talk like I wasn't part of, at least when the first movies came out.
Well, I was 8 when the first book was published.
Look at you.
Anyways, we're going to be talking about the Hunger Games today. Just the first book, because we want to do individual episodes for the rest of the books.
I also haven't read the second or third book.
Yeah.
Or the prequel.
And we're into like a lot. Like, we'll do episodes on like the Percy Jackson show. We're going to be doing like Marvel movies.
Greek mythology.
We'll be talking about like Greek mythology, just like the content and TV shows. Oh, we have to do an Avatar episode. We have to. And like a Korra episode, yeah. But before then, how's it going today?
It's going good. Oh, it's going good.
If you want to.
We went to the gym. It was both of our first times. And then we got food.
Yeah, we actually... I tried In-N-Out for the first time. I will admit, I was an In-N-Out hater. But I really am appreciating the experience now. The drive-thru was like really fast. And the food is pretty bomb.
The lettuce actually tastes like lettuce.
You need to speak up because...
The lettuce tastes like lettuce.
Well, we're... Obviously, you can see our camera quality isn't great. I'm recording on my, like, 7-year-old phone. These mics... Bitch, did you take my thing?
No, it's mine.
Where did mine go?
I don't know.
Well... This is not a professional podcast.
It's not.
Sorry if this is a little bit disjointed. I also want to say apologies for the audio. These are not working. I can't get them to work. I can't figure it out. And also we have like background noise, like the heater is like literally like negative 13 degrees right now. So our heater is on. We're not turning it off. There's also like hella people in our house. I told Callum to write down a few points, get a few quotes from the book, so we can discuss. I have my points and my quotes.
I got busy and distracted. I don't have anything, so I'm probably just going to piggyback off of Mary's.
One of the things that I really love about the Hunger Games books, and I've always joked about this before, I've always said like Suzanne Collins is my Karl Marx. In a way of which the Hunger Games got me as an 8-year-old thinking about like politics and how like the system is unfair and like drawing just parallels from the Hunger Games into our world. I do know that she lacks a bit of the nuances that the real world does have. Well, I guess there is like the racial aspect in the books because of District 11, I guess being like predominantly black. And like how that ties into everything. We did not summarize the Hunger Games. Everybody knows what the fuck the Hunger Games is. If you don't, you're stupid.
Whoa!
So the first quote and the first point and the first like parallel I guess I want to draw is she says, "The reaping system is unfair, with the poor getting the worst of it." She then goes on to explain sort of how every single year, you guys know, they get their name put in the drawing board. So like if you're 12, you get 1, 13, 2, 14, 4, and so on and so forth. But you can opt in for a Tesseract, which is, I guess, a government-funded program where they give you grain and oil for the year, and you can put your name in once for yourself and then once for like the different members of your family. And during this exchange, they're interacting with Madge, who's the mayor's daughter. She's known as like the upper class. Obviously, you're the mayor's daughter, you get more privileges. And she like makes a passing joke, and then Gale gets like mad at her. By the 74th Hunger Games, Katniss's name is in there 20 times because she has to get Tesseract for herself, her mom, and her little sister Prim. And then Gale's name is in the system 42 times. Madge's name, on the other hand, is maybe in there like 5 times. And Gale gets really mad, and Katniss goes on to say, and even though the rules were set up by the capital, not the districts, certainly not Madge's family, it's hard not to resent those who don't have to sign up for Tesseract. Gale knows his anger at Madge is misdirected. On other days, deep in the woods, I've listened to him rant about how the Tesseract is just another tool to cause misery to our district. A way to plant hatred between the starving workers and the seam, and those who can generally count on supper, and thereby ensure we will never trust one another. He says, it's the capital's advantage to have us divided amongst ourselves. And I think, well, first of all, Madge is not in the movies. Those of you who have only watched the movies, first of all, you. Second of all, Madge is the one who gives Katniss the Mockingjay pin.
In the books, yes. It's more confusing how she gets in the movies because it doesn't make sense to me, but
well, in the movies she gives it to Prim to like protect her. I forgot if she does that in the books. No, because Madge gives it to Katniss when she's saying goodbye to her. And it's a change that I don't mind, because it makes it, I guess, a little bit more meaningful. But at the same time, you sort of get this more nuanced approach, and that's the thing that the movies lack a lot, is just like the politics of it all, because Katniss like goes on to say in that same sort of page, I guess, his rage seems pointless to me, although I never say so. It's not that I don't agree with him, I do, but what good is yelling about the capital in the middle of the woods? It doesn't change anything, it doesn't make things fair, and it doesn't fill our stomachs. And I think that's something that a lot of us feel these days. It's like, well, I can't go to like a Black Lives Matter protest, I can't go to like a Free Palestine protest because like I need to go to work, I need to go to my 9 to 5 to support my family and like fill our stomachs. Like I can't just go on strike to protest the 9 to 5 job, which is like completely not great for us. I mean, it's not like a 9 to 5 is going and working in the mines, but there are people out there who they go and work on fields, they have to go and do like physical, hard, strenuous labor, and they're too busy doing that labor and trying to sort of keep themselves alive to be able to protest and be able to even think about protesting or even think that this is unfair. They're too busy like trying to survive. And I think that really ties into real life, and especially everything that's been happening over the last, I guess, sort of, I was gonna say decade, but forever in America.
Yeah.
Forever.
America's not the best. Never has been.
They pit us against each other so we won't go against the capital, which in our world, we are the capital. The United States, we are the capital. We are the people that are sending our troops to fucking funding the war in Palestine. Like President Biden funded Israel, so did Obama, so did probably every president before then when it like originally started in the 50s. Like 40s, 50s is when the occupation started. Yeah, and we have like, who was the rapper who like put the fucking diamond in his head, and like all these like Kim Kardashian getting a BBL and then getting her BBL removed, and like just we are the capital. We really are.
I don't like it here.
The rest of the world probably looks at us
Sorry.
in disgust. I mean,
half of us look at ourselves in disgust.
Yeah, like look at like Europe has free healthcare. And, like, they're like, oh, you fucking Americans with your school shootings and, like, no health care. And it's like, you did this to us. You were the one who fucking came over here and occupied the Native American land.
Y'all didn't have to do that.
Literally.
You could have stayed
on your little island.
Going back to the point of, like, how we have to, like, work together and stuff. Everyone is so pitted against each other nowadays that no one remembers, like, independence isn't always the way to go about it. Like, in order to make a difference, one person can't do that. There has to be, like, the protests, the petitions that we sign to, like, change things. That is group efforts, and no one like thinks about that nowadays. Like, we're all so used to, like, the president making the final decision, or, like, we barely get, like, the majority vote when it comes to things. And it needs to, like, work differently in order to, like, decrease independence in the right areas.
Individualism, I think, is the word you're looking for.
I
think it's one of my points, and the reason why this is so political right now is because Callum's just piggybacking off of my points. Callum had very different points.
And a lot of us, when we're younger, we typically just go with what we're, like, taught. Mm-hmm. And we don't, like, gain consciousness of the things around us until we get to, like, high school. Like, me, I'm still barely gaining consciousness of what's happening outside of, like, the state alone and outside of the country.
Anyways, on to my next point. Veering away from politics a little bit, I feel like. So, Hamish, later, when they're on the train, he vomits all over himself, because he's a drunk. I think the movies really tone it down. They make him a little bit more charming, a little bit more suave.
He doesn't fall off the stage in the movies.
Yeah.
He also doesn't tell them, she's got a lot more spunk than you do.
Yeah, I think some of the changes are good. Like I said, they make him a little bit more likable. A lot more likable. I think his casting is amazing. But, so, in the books, he's a lot more sloppy. And then Peeta offers to shower him. And Katniss is like, thank God. Like, I don't want to see this fool naked. And she's like, let me get, like, one of the Capitol attendants to help you. And then he's like, no, like, I'll do it. And I wanted to talk about this instead of the bread story. Because, well, first of all, everybody talks about the bread story. In the movies, they don't really make it, like... In the books, it's, like, so much more meaningful. But... everybody talks about it. Meanwhile, this is where she thinks to herself, he's doing it, she says, it's because he's being kind, just as he was kind to giving the bread. This idea pulls me short. A kind Peeta Mellark is far more dangerous to me than an unkind one. Kind people have a way of working their way inside me and rooting there, and I can't let Peeta do this. Not where we're going. So I decide, from this moment on, to have as little as possible to do with the baker's son. And then she, like, throws the baker's cookies out of the window.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, again, books, so much better than movies. But I think that kindness is really just one of the main themes of the books, and Katniss choosing kindness over and over again, and just, like, the symbolism of the bread from her kindness, and, like, the dandelion from the kindness, and, like, I think there's more that I'm not thinking of, but her empathy is what makes her the Mockingjay. Like, her volunteering for her sister, her like, what else? There's like never mind. This is from the third book, but her volunteering for her sister, her like burying Prim with the flowers, Rue with the flowers. Oh, excuse me, I'm Katniss, literally mixing the two up, cause that's the reason she's so attached to Rue, is because she reminds her so much of Prim.
The book literally like says like she looks so much like Prim. She's built like Prim. She has the small, soft face like Prim, and she has the overall vibe of Prim.
Yeah.
And that's why she's so like inclined to like not only go near her and like talk with her, but also to like trust her in the games.
And imagine like if Katniss hadn't volunteered for Prim, I think Rue and Prim would have been allies. That's a little bit off topic.
I'm not crying on this podcast. Stop.
But imagine like the two babies teaming up together. I think Prim definitely would have died. 10,000%. She's way too kind. Like, she cried. She cries when like Katniss tried to like teach her to hunt and stuff. I think that was also mentioned in for other books, but but yeah, it just, Katniss is deeply mistrusting, so it takes her a while to like actually trust Peeta. Like, she'll be like, Peeta was like crying after he was like said goodbye to his family, and then she was like, oh, that's the card he's gonna play. He's gonna be like the crybaby. And I'm like, girl, he's going into the arena to die. Like, he's not playing a game. He has feelings.
I feel like she thought he was gonna do what Joanna did.
Yeah.
Can I talk about Joanna for like 2 seconds?
Just 2 seconds, because it is in the other books.
I think it's mentioned in this one at least, how Joanna uses like childishness and bubbliness to seem innocent and like weak and all that, and then once she's in the game, she slaughtered them.
With their axe, yeah.
I couldn't find another word.
Demonetized.
But don't. I'm scared. I feel like that's what Katniss thought that Peeta was gonna go for, but instead of like bubbly and like sweet and innocent, I feel like she thought he might have been going for like weak, scared, frail, that kind of thing.
Well, and then we can talk about, actually, since we're on Peeta, we can talk about Everlark. Or penis.
Don't say that.
What's it called? Oh shit, what was I gonna say? Oh, bro.
Language.
Bro, I lost it. I guess. I forgot. Okay, so I forgot the point that I was gonna make. But
sorry, that was my bad.
Talking about Everlark for a minute, even before she realizes it, she's in love with him. You can really tell in the second book. Like, oh my god. The movies, they make it seem like she like is kind of like indifferent to him most of the time. But oh my god, the way she talks about Peeta, I'm like, girl, you are down bad. Like, and even in the first book, you can kind of tell she keeps tabs on him. She's like, Peeta's strong. He like lifts 100-pound bags of flour. He wrestles. Like, he's an amazing, like, painter or whatever. And I'm like, girl, you've been keeping tabs on the boy with the bread.
Normal people don't keep tabs on the boy with the bread, honey.
Like, they really balance each other out. And I think that, like, kind of goes into my point is Katniss has, like, that fire inside of her, that, like, fight, that, like, survivalism, but Peeta, like, is like mellow and more lovable and like genuine, but he does know how to play a room. He knows how to fucking play a room. Going into the second book, the pregnancy thing, oh my god, he knows how to play a fucking room. He knows how to play the fucking Capitol.
Katniss played the game, but Peeta played the Capitol, and he won.
Like, admitting his crush on her, bruh. I saw a Tumblr post that was like, what was it? The one where, can you imagine, like, Peeta, I'll put it up on the screen, but, like, it was like, can you imagine Peeta, going into, like, his training session, and then Haymitch is like, alright, boy, what's your angle? And then Peeta's like, I've been in love with Katniss for 7 years. And then Haymitch is like, oh, word?
I remember that one.
And I'm like, they really are in love. She loves him. I think her idea of love is really skewed, especially in her world, because even when she talks about it with Gail, she's like, there was never anything romantic with me and Gail, or like if she imagines it, she's like, I can never love anybody, because she sees love as an inevitability of marriage and kids, and she doesn't want her kids to go to Hunger Games. But she does love Peeta. She very clearly loves Peeta if you read the books. But y'all don't. So.
Wait. Oh no, that's the second book. Never mind. Sorry. No, that's the third, but actually.
Oh, I cannot wait to like get more into it, because like the second book, I really do want to talk about more how she loves him. There's like an entire page that I want to read where she just describes him, and I'm like, oh, girl.
She's oblivious.
In the third book, I want to talk about Finnick, and like prostitution, which also ties into
the next point.
Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which we did see. I did read. Cam has not yet.
I'm a slow reader.
And it's a hard book to read. He is not a likable character at all. His thoughts like are really depressing.
I wouldn't doubt it, and that's probably what's keeping me from reading it.
But speaking of prostitution, they are literally children. Callum, they are literally children.
They are children. They're younger. They're almost younger than me sometimes.
Look, you're the age Katniss is when Katniss goes into the ring. I am older than I would not be eligible, so I wouldn't be able to volunteer for you.
Damn, don't say that.
The point of Rue being like a little tiny itty bitty baby girl, and in the book she does talk about it. She's like, when they're replaying the drawing, what is it called? The drawing of the names? The reaping. When they're replaying the reaping, she goes, like, the crowd is not like happy or cheering or anything the way they always are when like a 12-year-old child gets picked. And I think that's part of what I think the casting in the movies is amazing. I think they did a really great job. Josh as Peeta, Jennifer as Katniss, Haymitch's cast, Effie's a lot more likable in the movies than the books.
She is.
But they aged them up a lot. And if they would have sent little baby Josh Hutcherson and little baby Jennifer, I was about to say Aniston.
Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence. Too many Jennifers, y'all. If they would have cast little baby them, I think the movies wouldn't have been as popular, because the thing that Hollywood did with the movies, we're gonna get into my point in a second, but
they turned it into a romance movie.
It turned it into a romance movie instead of with political.
A really bad love triangle, which no one should be a fan of. If you are, you're lame.
I was watching a video, I won't say which YouTuber, but he was like, oh, the Hunger Games Catching Fire movie is so much better than the books, and I'm like, you're dumb, you don't have any critical thinking skills.
I haven't even read the second book, and yes, the movie was great, but I read a single paragraph from the middle of the book where Katniss is talking about Peeta.
I sent it to Callum, yeah.
Yeah. It's already better, and I haven't even read it.
It's when they cast up, it loses that nuance, because they're children, and when she's describing the stylist, she's like, I hope the stylists don't put me in previous years they had children, babies, children, stark naked, covered in coal dust, and I'm like, these are capital citizens, 40s nasty ass fucking President Snow and his fucking 70s nasty ass fucking stylist putting these babies naked in a chariot, and they're babies, they're children, and the whole country is watching them naked in a chariot and naked in the games. And one quote that I wanted to bring up is the girl tribute from District 1, looking provocative in a see-through gown, steps up the center of the stage to join Caesar for her interview. You could tell her mentor didn't have any trouble coming coming up with an angle for her. With that flowing blonde hair, emerald green eyes, her body tall and lush. She's sexy all the way. Which I don't think is problematic for Katniss to say, because Katniss is young. Like, she can talk about her age demographic any way she wants. But it just goes to show how twisted Katniss's mind is to, like, view that as acceptable. I mean, even nowadays, people had countdowns for when, like, Billie Eilish turned 18, Lindsay Lohan turned 18 type thing. And it just, like, it's another thing that parallels our worlds, definitely.
I don't know how much I can expand on this, but I feel like with this topic specifically, it really goes to show, like, what would have happened if someone like Glimmer or Cato had won the games. Like, we're not gonna call Katniss or Peeta unattractive, because in the eyes of the Capitol, they would have been. If everything hadn't happened, they would have had the same fate as Finnick, unfortunately.
We're gonna talk about Finnick. Don't you guys worry.
But it's like, if Cato or Glimmer had won, they would have been completely fucked. Excuse my language, I'm sorry. But Glimmer especially, she's a young girl, and as she was described, she's tall, lush, she's attractive. She would have been one of the, like, more targeted winners of that, I'm trying to find the word.
For what? To be thrown into prostitution?
Yes, thank you. Jesus. Cato is attractive. He would be desirable to, like, anyone. And then if he had won, he would have been everything that had happened to Finnick would have happened to Finnick just as bad, if not worse. And I feel like it's not talked about enough. Like, yeah, everyone talks about Finnick. Yes, Finnick deserves to be talked about. But what about what no one talks about what would have happened, even to Katniss and Peeta, if nothing had happened with the rebellion. They would have gone through so much.
Well, and to expand on that a little bit, if only Katniss had won, or only Peeta had won, if only Katniss had won, or only Peeta had won, they were seen as desirable. Cinna made her the girl on fire. She talks about it in the book. She's like, I think that's another thing. People get mad at, like, Katniss for being, like, shallow, or, like, something, or, like, being ungrateful for, like, being transformed. And it's like, and she spends, like, a long time talking about, like, her body hair being removed and, like, everything being scrubbed, and, like, I think that's, like, part of the point. It's like, you should be able to choose what you want to do with your body, and in their society and in our society, you don't really get a choice. Like, I mean, you kind of do, but you will be judged and, like, persecuted, and, like, just if you choose to do what you want with your body. Even just, like, not shaving your legs or not shaving your armpits is still controversial. And
in 2024.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I really admire about Katniss, is she's like, I miss my leg hair, and, like, when...
She's so real for that. Leg hair be keeping me warm sometimes.
But, yeah, is there anything else you can think of? Like, in terms of things you want to talk about, quotes you want to bring up?
You keep talking, I'm gonna find a quote real fast.
But, like, especially when they're in the cave, and again, Katniss is like, oh, Peeta's, like, being so manipulative, he's so good at this stuff. Girl, he's just in love with you. Like, especially when he talks about that day when he first knew he had a crush on her, and it was, like, one of the first days of school, and she was in, like, the blue dress or, like, a blue ribbon or something, and then she sang the metal song, the same one that she sang for Rue, and when she sings, all the birds stop to listen, just like they did with her father. And then Katniss is like, whoa, that sounded real. And it's like, girl, because he loves you. Oh, go on. That also brings me into her dad dying. R.I.P. But her mom sort of went into this like deep depression.
I was just gonna talk about that.
Literally,
Thank God. Okay.
Bro. Okay. Same minds. But she talks about like her mom just like being catatonic and in this catatonic state, and then she really resents her mom for it. At the beginning of the book, she hates her mom. She doesn't want to accept any of her help. And like she like resents that Prim still likes her mom.
Rue.
And that like Prim seeks comfort in her mom. And she just like talks about like there's this one quote that she goes like how my mom stopped living when my dad died. And then she like really judges her mom for it. And then we'll talk about it when you read the second book, and when we do our Catching Fire episode. But
in 3 months.
Yeah, and she talks about it more in Mockingjay too. Or I guess she doesn't talk about it, but like you can see the parallels where she lets her mom take care of her more in the second book because she understands like the trauma now. In the second book, she's like wanted to start drinking with Haymitch, and she was really mad when Peeta wanted them to sober up and start training for the games, which isn't in the movies. It's in the movies. But
they were too focused on making us want to like Gale, which doesn't make sense.
Okay. But I think another thing I want to talk about, and we'll talk about it maybe more in the next, in like the Catching Fire, or I think Mockingjay episode.
Gale's not as bad. Is that what you're gonna say?
Gale's not as bad as everybody wants him to be. Everybody's like, oh, Snow, he's just a little itty bitty baby, and Lucy Gray hurt his heart, and that's why he's so evil. And then they're like, Gale's a fucking little bitch, punk bitch. And I'm like, that's not how this works. Gale was a citizen, angry at the Capitol, trying to free his people, and had his whole district killed in front of him, led them to safety. But he's the bad guy? He's worse than Snow? And the movies did him bad. They like literally changed a lot of his lines to make him hateful and mean and nasty and gross. We'll talk about this more. But he like defends Peeta.
I think another thing that I personally, I don't like Liam Hemsworth. I feel like that was also a big thing for me because I don't.
Good casting though. They do kind of look pretty similar. Like they could be cousins.
Yeah, visuals it was great, but I'm not a Liam Hemsworth fan. Attack me all you want. I don't care, and he's not as attractive as y'all make him out to be.
Yeah, I think it. And the movies, like you said. They really try to push for the like Team Gale, Team Peeta. In the books, it's Team Peeta all the way. Even when Peeta gets like, we'll talk about this more.
Gale isn't even a love interest in the books.
I think that's our cue to.
My thing went out. My bad, y'all. That's our cue to go.
Do you want to plug it back in, or just do it? Okay. We're just gonna do our outro. Anyways, this has been the first episode of Pandora's Pod. Stick around, por favor. I'm Mary Catherine.
I'm Callum.
Can I do a little plug your socials?
Yeah. My TikTok is CALX_333, and
I'll put it.
Okay. My Instagram is CA1XZA, and I will also be talking about said podcast on those socials. So,
I'm Mary Catherine. You can find me on YouTube.com/I'm Mary Catherine. On Instagram, I'm Mary Catherine. I'm not really active on social media. Those socials are mostly there just to promote the podcast and my YouTube channel. But let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, or if you guys want like the Avatar episode before the Mockingjay episode or something. And to those 3 viewers watching this, which is probably my best friend, Callum's best friend, and me, Thank you. We love you and appreciate you. You did not stick out to the end, but
if you did stick out to the end.
If you did stick out to the end.
We'll remember you when we're famous.
Hi, everybody. Oh, let me read that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to...
everyone. My name is...
Alright, let's do that one more time. And then, like, they quote... Fuck.
What was it? What were you trying to say? They quote what?
Weedy bop bop? Skibbity pop. Well. Cut that out. Anyways, smooth like butter. I'm cutting that out.
No, you can't. That has to be the bloopers. You have to like make a compilation of every time I've sniffled.